You served with former Secretary of State Colin Powell, and he was famous for his management by walking around. I'm curious to know what that is and why it's important.
So now, Christian, I get to spend a lot of time with senior corporate leaders and executives. I also spend a lot of time with senior military folks, and I hope the military continues to allow me to share what I've learned with our up-and-coming generals. One of the things that I learned early on, and again, it's by working for some great leaders, but there is nothing more important than your personal presence. And people don't realize how important it is for the boss to be present. It's easy. When I was a brand new second lieutenant and was responsible for 30 men, it's easy to know not only their names, but their wives' names, their kids' names, to have in a notebook when birthdays were, because that was the expectation. It's a little bit harder when you start talking about 1,000, 4,000, 20,000, and then 750,000. But you know what? It's harder, but it doesn't excuse you from figuring out how best to do it. And so this management by walking around, it's really not, I don't like the term management, right?
We can call it coaching by walking around. How about that? Let's tie it all together.
But it goes back to something that I learned early on, I think about most days, and that's leading by personal example. I tell people all the time, there's only one way to lead in our Army. And now I'm expanding that beyond the Army because my life has expanded beyond the Army. But even in this new world that I find myself in, it still stays the same. There's only one way to lead, and that is by personal example. The other thing that people don't realize is I commanded a battalion in the 82nd, as you said. I had 750 paratroopers. I remember my boss, who was a colonel at the time, counseling me, and he goes, Mike, when you get to be a brigade commander, you're not going to be able to command the way that you command your battalion. I said, what do you mean? He goes, every single one of your paratroopers. And I thought to myself, I said, he thinks I know every single one of my paratroopers. But you know what? So did they. And so when I went on to command a brigade of 4,000 people, I wanted every one of them to know me personally. When I went on to be the FORCECOM commander, it's impossible for 750,000 people to personally know you, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. My point is, in this leadership, by interacting with the people that you lead is important. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about things that are important to me, but I hate hypocrites. And it's the one thing that I think about every single day. The audio and the video have got to always be in alignment. The other thing is, I learned early on that 30 seconds of my time is something that a soldier might remember for the rest of their lives. I bump into people all the time. Now it's in airports. General Garrett, how are you? And now that I'm old, I can say, hey, can you help remind me where we met? And I'm like, oh, sure. We were in the motor pool 20 years ago. When I walk away from those, I really feel good about what I've done, because I know guys that if I saw them in an airport, if I could chuck an egg at them, I would, in some cases. Yeah. So it means a lot to me that people continue to reach out to Mike Garrett. It just reminds me that every interaction matters. Your personal interaction, your personal presence matters and can't be understated.
You mentioned hypocrites. Would that be one of your pet peeves? I'm curious what your non-negotiables are. A lot of coaches have them. Make sure you're early. Make sure you're polite. What are your pet peeves? What are your non-negotiables as a leader?
Well, I think hypocrisy encompasses everything, right? It's not just other people. It's yourself. It allows me to check myself every day.
So wait, why do people do it? Why is there a fear of being honest and authentic? Don't you think that, especially from a soldier or a player, an athlete that has a coach or somebody who has a boss, I would think that honesty is probably the number one thing. So everybody is on the same page and nobody feels like they're being taken advantage of. I would think that would endear your soldiers to you more.
It does, and it's expected. But think about it. It gets hard. When you are leading 30 people, they see you from the time you show up in the morning to the time you leave in the evening. And then depending on where you are, you bump into them on the weekend. The things that you say are important to you. For instance, I don't walk past trash. That's my little thing.
No, you see a candy wrapper on the ground, you stop and pick it up.
I can't walk by it. And here's why. You know why? Because I said I don't walk past trash. And every time, because let me tell you, sometimes it's a pain in the ass, right? Sometimes there's no trash receptacles. And I put limits on myself now. My wife won't let me pick up dirty underwear, right? Or socks, right? She says, look, don't touch that. And now I'm a little bit more strategic. I'm looking for a trash can before I pick it up. But the point is, nobody's watching me. They don't even know who I am here in Charlotte. But you know what? I see the piece of trash. And there have been some mornings it's raining or something. I'm like, I'm just going to keep walking. I get 2 or 3 steps by it, and I go, you hypocrite. So this is a very simple way to remind myself that there are a lot of people who have invested in Mike Garrett. There are a lot of people who listen to Mike Garrett. And I just do everything that I can. And I'm not perfect, but I do everything that I can to make sure that what comes out of my mouth matches what people see.
So with that, how do you identify somebody who has leadership qualities? What are you looking for?
In young people, I'm looking for confidence. I'm looking for a young person who is confident in themselves. I'm looking for a young person who is inquisitive. And this is something I always get beat up on. I've always been about being physically fit. And so that was a deal breaker for me. If you were... I don't know who's going to watch this.
Oh, a lot of people, Mike. A lot of people.
But I hope. But I've got a reputation for, I'll say, chunky people, right?
Yeah.
Because the Army, the Army's all about standards. And I've walked up to a lot of people, and not to embarrass, I pull them off to the side, but I tell them, like, hey, man, or hey, you do not look like our Army standard. And what I told them was, I said, here's the deal. Your privates are looking at you. And they're going, all right, the Army keeps telling us that we got to be able to do this many push-ups, this many sit-ups. We got to be able to run this far, and I can't weigh more than this. But look at this fat guy or gal. People that say fitness is important, for instance. And going back to what I look for in leaders. So you got to be fit.
Yep.
You got to be smart, right? I mean, this is a thinking person's business. And I said the confidence piece, got to have good character. I'm to the point now where God gave me a number of strengths, I think. And one of them is I love people. He gave me a love for people. And over the years, I've gotten pretty good at being able to evaluate folks pretty quick. I didn't get it right all the time. The times that I didn't get it right were because there was somebody that was maybe a little bit chunky, but then we're out running and they go right by me. That caused me to reevaluate. In some cases, caused me to go back and apologize. But that's what I'm looking for in a leader.
Taking over! Gonna storm the castle! Get the gremlin!